Hello and welcome back to the RevOps Show. There's a position that has been thrown around in the RevOps community that has been drawing our attention. The RevOps admin, the CRM admin, essentially the admin. And this is a hard and challenging topic for anyone to wrap their heads around. So Doug and Jess are doing some of the heavy lifting for us in today's episode. Through some sarcasm, lots of laughter, and a couple of pushbacks, they're here to take us through what the admin is here to do.
Jess, you know, the sign of evolved mind is someone who's willing to change it.
Is that a sign of the sign of an evolved mind? I thought it was being able to hold two competing thoughts.
That's a sign of a superior mind, I think. I don't know. But anyway, so I'm saying congratulations on your evolved mind. You used to be anti Fridays for recording.
I don't think I was ever anti Fridays.
Oh, yeah, we can go back.
Well,
I'll go back. Hannah, go back, find the episode, put it in the show notes where Jess said, I don't think it's a good idea for us to record on Fridays.
Okay, fine, maybe. So I've evolved. Is the takeaway. So
you like the Friday vibe?
I like the Friday vibe. I like that Friday afternoons are far less disruptive to you and my schedules than trying to do it on a Wednesday. I don't know how productive they're going to be. But yeah, Doug.
You're taking some time off next week. I noticed, though, you're not taking Friday off, which is good. That way we can, because I know how important
Friday off because I don't want to miss RevOps Show. It's exactly what it was.
Exactly.
I don't want to deprive our listeners. She is.
Has she started planning it for her friends, having them come over and say, "Here, listen to my daughter on"?
She does like to tell people that I host a podcast. She does like to tell people that.
Now, do they go, "What's a podcast?"
No, my parents aren't that old. No.
I mean, do the people that she talks to, not your.
No,
parents,
they know what a podcast is. They know what a podcast is.
Okay. So what are you doing next week, Jess?
I really hoped we had moved on. I am going to Dallas for a concert.
For a concert. And what concert, Jess?
I'm going to go see the Backstreet Boys. Really excited.
Backstreet Boys.
Yeah.
That's Nick Carter, right? Not Aaron Carter?
That is Nick Carter. That is not the dumpster fire that is Aaron Carter.
He is a dumpster fire. There is no question about that.
I'm excited. I'm going to relive my 15-year-old life.
Is this what you're looking forward to hearing?
And make sure that you'll be alright. That was perfect too, because that came in on Nick. See, perfect timing.
Just do you think I'm an amateur?
No.
Do you think I haven't done this before? Although to be honest with you, I don't think I would actually.
I don't think you knew who that was.
He sounds like to be able to call him out.
I know everybody's jealous now that I'm going to the Backstreet Boys concert. I know all of our listeners.
Here we go, Jess. See, if you're not watching on video, you have to be watching on video now. Jess is in. You are into the Backstreet Boys.
I love them. I've loved them since I was 12. It's deep and it's real.
Well, there we go.
Deep and it's real.
Alrighty. So what are we talking about today, Jess?
I want to talk about the role of the admin.
The role of the admin, like the roll of the dice.
No.
The robe of the admin. The role of the admin. Alrighty. Let's talk about the role. Let's talk about the admin.
The admin. The CRM admin. So I guess where I want to start is why and when do you need an admin?
Well, what do you think?
I think why and when are about the same thing, actually. So I think it's when your CRM gets to a place where it becomes unruly, when you have anarchy and you need to bring order. That's what I think the why is, and when that becomes an issue, when that's starting to slow you down, when you're starting to lose productivity, capability, ability to track what you need to track and do what you need to do.
So I think that is when people start to really pay attention to having or putting an admin in place. So I agree with you that is that would be what the world thinks. That's my impression of what the world thinks. But let me ask you a question.
So I agree with the world because that's what I think.
You are the world, Jess. You are the children.
You're going to ask me a question.
You do make a brighter day. You do make a brighter day.
Oh, that's so nice.
But let me ask you this. Repeat the condition that you just described. That
anarchy.
Right? And like give more context to what anarchy is. Because you went over it. You hit all those points.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So I can't do the things I need to do. I can't track the things I need to track. I can't find the things I need to find.
That's the situation. Put yourself in our advisory shoes now.
Mm-hmm.
That's the situation. Someone comes to you and says, we're using XYZ CRM. Here's my problem. What should I do? Is your answer put a CRM admin?
No.
What's your answer?
We need to diagnose why those things are happening. We need to figure out what the cause of the problem is, and then that's how you come up with what the solution is. So it could be that you need an admin. It could be that.
Is it that it could be that you need an admin?
Well, so I say it could be that you need an admin because if nobody's paying attention to these things, if nobody's maintaining the system, then you need somebody in place to maintain the system. So it could be that you need an admin. I don't think that is the solve, but it could be one of the components of the solve. You
need somebody to pay attention. That's what you said, right?
That is what I said.
Court clerk, read back to the witness. Do you stand by that? Do you want to change your answer?
No, I don't want to change my answer.
So nobody is paying attention
to the system.
So you need somebody to pay attention to the system. And so we put an admin in place, and is the problem solved?
I didn't say that was the solve to the problem. It could be a part of the solve to the problem.
So what else is?
Well,
what does it mean that no one is paying attention to the system?
It means that nobody's looking at it holistically. Nobody's like, so for instance, we need a form created. So we'll just create a bunch of fields and put those in because we need them for the form. We're not looking for redundancy. Are those things already being tracked? Where do you want those things tracked? What are you actually hiring the form for? That's what I mean by nobody's paying attention. People are just doing stuff to solve for whatever the immediate issue is or immediate need.
So how is that different if you put an admin in place?
If you have an admin, well, not necessarily different.
Well, where were you going? What were you thinking?
I was going to say, if you have an admin in place and somebody who kind of is overseeing that system holistically, they can be there to ask those questions or make sure when those things are implemented, they're implemented in a way where you're not creating redundancy or we're not, we're making sure those things are tracked in the right place.
And you started answering your question a certain way, and now you began to adjust that. So what's
okay, you lost me.
So with that admin in place.
Yeah.
Now the marketing person theoretically who wasn't paying attention to the system puts in a request to the admin to create a form.
That is how some people handle it. I mean that.
So here's my next question. If no one's paying attention to the system and I put an admin in place and no one's paying attention to the system, and the system, and I'm putting the system in quotes, is that you need to clear things through the admin.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is what would be implied. Yeah.
Right. But I'm not paying attention to the system. So do I put the request into the admin?
No, you don't.
So you said something that I think is a false premise or a it's a false premise. So in the beginning, you shared the symptoms of when you begin to think that you need an admin.
Yeah.
I asked you, if someone came to you and said, these are my symptoms, what do I need? Would you say you need an admin? You would say probably not. And what you began to say, what I'm going to rephrase what you said to be, we need to identify what's wrong with the system.
Right.
So remember, and I think we talked about this in an earlier episode, your system is perfectly designed to produce the result that you're getting.
Yeah.
So if you're getting anarchy and you're getting craziness, then you have a system, and that's happening frequently, that creates, all of a sudden I walked into a mental wall there.
That creates anarchy.
Right. So it's a systems problem.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're not paying attention to quote unquote the system, and I'm gonna say this, you can't not be paying attention to the system. Oh, don't roll your eyes at me like that.
Why do you say that you can't be paying attention to the system? Why do you say that you can't not be paying attention to the system? I'm going to push back on that because I don't think that's true.
Because the system because the system is whatever is happening.
Okay. That's not the system I was talking about, though. I was talking about the system as in the CRM, not the.
So you're talking about the application.
Okay, the application.
The software.
Yes.
Right.
Right.
And so the problem is not the software. The problem is the system.
What does that mean?
Didn't we do a whole episode on the system? We can do another one. Right. The system is the structure, the processes, the methodologies, right? So what you're saying is we're not paying attention to the intent. Now here's something I'm going to say. The CRM admin doesn't have a holistic view. If you have a CRM admin, you know why?
Why? Because they're only looking
using
at CRM.
CRM.
Yeah.
Right. Remember, the CRM is supposed to be an enabler. Right. So if in fact people are doing things that are creating duplicate this, that, creating anarchy, then what you've got to do is you've got to identify what the cause is and address that. What you have is there's a lack of clarity in the underlying business process.
Right.
Right. And so what the system should do is the system should enable the implementation of whatever that business process is.
Okay.
Right. And so when you put the CRM admin in that role of the CRM, and gosh, I got to find this, Jess. You should have reminded me that we had this before, because I remember I saw it was a tweet or a LinkedIn post or something. So here's what the tweet was, right? It's not marketing, sales, or customer services job to keep the CRM clean, to make sure reports are accurate. It's the RevOps system admin's job. Right?
Yep.
Right. That's what, and I think if you showed this to 90%, 99% of people, they would go, yep. And I go, ready? Jess, this is visual. You got to be looking. I go.
I'm looking. Doug's having a head in hand moment for those of you who aren't watching us.
Head in hands.
Head
this
in
is
hands.
Too big of
Multiple.
a size for a single hand to be able to handle it. Right. You know, I'm seeing increasing metaphors of go-to-market with manufacturing, and, you know, analogies and metaphors between go-to-market and manufacturing. And unfortunately, there's something. I think this is why sales and marketing leaders don't get to have nice things. Is that for some reason they just really struggle to learn from other disciplines' lessons. This is how manufacturing used to think about things. Manufacturing used to have inspectors, right? To make sure quality control came. So the product was manufactured, then it went through quality control, which involved an inspector to get signed off. And what you did, actually, let me take a step back. Do you want to know what's wrong with the U.S. quote unquote healthcare system? And by the way, most healthcare systems in the world. You want to know what's wrong with it?
What's wrong with it?
It's not a healthcare system. It's a sick care system. The healthcare system is defined by the problem, not by the desired state, not by the outcome. So we manage sickness. And all you have to do is take a look at the entire system, and you can see that's the underlying thing that happens, right? So when you talk about the admin in most organizations, what's the emotional response?
Oh,
right.
Not good. Not good.
What's your what's Frank is our admin?
Yep.
Jess, Frank wants to talk to you.
Ugh. Why does Frank want to talk to me?
Right. And what's underneath that? What did I do wrong?
Yep.
Or you want to know what I think, you know what the sales side of it is thinking?
What?
What bullshit property did I fail to fill in? Right?
Yeah.
And you know what? And you know what? That's unfair to Frank. By the way, when you have to go and clear everything through, so before I make my form,
yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. In today's world, how effective is it that I put in the request to the admin to create the form?
Oh, it's super effective.
Right.
That's sarcasm, everyone.
Right. I create the form and I need Frank to approve the form. Boy, Frank got a great job.
No one wins in that situation.
What would happen if every soldier in the battlefield had to clear their action through their commanding officer?
Yeah.
Kind of used to happen that way, right? So here's the thing. Do you know whose job it is to quote unquote keep the CRM clean? And we'll go back to clean needs to have an operative definition, but whatever clean is,
right?
Let's say workable, effective. Do you know whose job it is?
Oh, I can't wait to hear who.
Who do you think?
Everyone's.
Every fucking person involved in it. Every fucking person that touched it. Every fucking person. It's not the admin's fault. It's not the admin's job. Because you know what? If you tell me it's the admin's job to make sure there's not redundancy, then you know what I don't have to worry about?
Redundancy. You don't have to worry about.
I can guarantee you I'm going to create a whole bunch of
redundancy.
Oh, and by the way, what incentive does Frank have to eliminate redundancy?
Yeah.
He doesn't have any incentive to eliminate redundancy. You know why?
Job security.
Yeah, if Frank's job is to address redundancy and Frank were to figure out how to eliminate redundancy, then what do you need Frank for?
Yeah.
Right. So what I'm saying is, in the traditional sense of the admin's job, 1975 is calling up and they're asking for their operational playbook back. That is a hierarchical approach. You know, Frank owns the CRM. Really? Does Frank own the CRM? Because that's what we say. We say the admin owns the CRM.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. But here's the problem. Does Frank? I feel bad if anybody listening is named Frank. It's nothing personal. If Frank owns the CRM, does Frank own the results that the CRM is responsible for?
No.
No. Right? No. Now, is Frank responsible for figuring out how to create all the reports? Seriously? Right? You want to create a whole bunch of not particularly meaningful reports? Centralize your report building. Right?
Yeah.
So the underlying idea of the admin is building low value friction. You're creating an artificial bottleneck that does nothing to accelerate velocity.
So
and
you
actually get more of the problem that you're looking to eliminate. And by the way, to everybody out there that's an admin, I think you're in a very strong position to recharacterize what the job of admin is. Because I'll tell you, I think a lot of the problem, it is not your fault. It's the fault of the system that you're in. It's the fault of how the job and the role has been defined. And by the way, so what ends up happening is the CRM admin administers the system, right? So there used to be, like, when certain technology came out, you needed specialized skill sets.
Right.
You know, Jess, before your time, there was a job called secretary.
I remember.
Do you know what one of the main jobs of the secretary was? It was one of the most common things that they did. By the way, did you know being a secretary was not typically in a large organization? That's not where you started. You actually had to get a promotion to become a secretary.
Yeah, I know.
Where did you start?
You know what? I don't know where you started. I just know that my dad's secretary got promoted.
One of the very common places that you started was the typing pool.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, that's right.
And you know what the role of the typing pool was?
Type as quickly as possible with as few errors as possible.
Either with someone recording what they wanted,
Yep.
Or my favorite scenes, Jess, imagine. Ready? We're doing.
Oh,
imagine.
man.
Jess, we need to meet at 1:00. Can you take dictation? How's
Yeah.
that go? Right?
Oof.
Okay. Well, you know what? There was a time where typing was, by the way, the greatest class I ever took. The highest ROI class I've ever taken in my entire life was my high school typing class.
Same. I used to work for a credit repair company, and speed and lack of errors was high up on that list.
But it was a skill. A lot of people didn't know how to type.
Yeah.
And so you built redundancy. Well, I remember one of my favorite early sales situations, and gosh, this would have been back probably, I think it was even before you were here. So it's probably like 2006, 2015, 2016. It was HubSpot versus Marketo. And I went into LinkedIn and I looked up the job title, Marketo admin.
Mm-hmm.
And there were like 33,000 or 52,000 people that had that. And then I typed in HubSpot admin, and I think there were 32. And I remember saying to the person, I don't really understand why that's in their title, because there's really no such thing. And the question that I asked was, if the choice of the product that you're going with, the question is, when it comes to your headcount, do you want headcount that's responsibility is to administer the technology?
Mm-hmm.
Or do you want the headcount that's responsible for doing the job that the technology is supposed to do? So basically, do you want to hire a full 1 or 2 full-time headcounts to administer the software, or do you want to hire 1 or 2 marketers? That wasn't a very difficult choice.
Right.
Right. And so as you look at the role of technology, as you look at how things have changed, the underlying level of what's expected from software is it needs to be able to be used by the line that's using it. Right. Otherwise, we're just building in low value redundancy. Right. Hey, Jess, I want to create a landing page that has X, Y, Z, this, right? As opposed to we're creating a landing page, right?
Yeah.
There was a time, by the way, that's what the admin did. Well, then what began to happen was, companies got bigger, and like my favorite is the Salesforce admin.
Yeah.
Right. You want to know another term for the department of which Salesforce admins tend to come from? They're the Gestapo. They're the compliance police. Right. And by the way, again, they're treated unfairly. I am empathetic to the admin role, because they're being told that their job is to do X. Right. And what ends up happening is you never treat the underlying cause. If you need somebody to oversee something to make sure that it stays clean the way it's supposed to be, if that's what you need to do, then that's what you need to do. But you need to identify that as a bug in your system, not a feature.
Right. Yeah.
So the question is, how do you eliminate that? How do you build strong system design? Because again, remember, the problem is almost never the technology. It's the business process behind the technology. And here's my question. Is the admin who's responsible for the CRM, who's responsible for the tech,
Yep.
are they given authority over business process?
No, they're not.
Is the admin responsible for sales results?
No.
So Judy is 150% quota.
Mm-hmm.
And gets yelled at by Frank weekly because she doesn't keep the CRM up to date.
Right.
Or creates duplicate or whatever. Roger is at 75% quota. And every time Frank talks to the salesperson, Frank talks about how Roger, take a look at how Roger uses the CRM. So
right.
Who's going on P Club trip? It's not Frank.
Right.
Who's worried about their job? I'm sorry, it's not Judy.
Yeah, right.
It's not Judy, right? And when all the salespeople hear that Roger is the CRM champion at 75% quota,
yeah,
and Judy's at 150% quota, who are the salespeople listening to, right? So all those things come in, and the moment you start saying you are the admin, you're making it, you're treating a systems issue as a behavioral issue.
So are you anti-admin? Because that's That's what it sounds like.
Am I anti-admin? I'm anti-dominant execution of admins. What should an admin be doing?
That was going to be my question. Yeah.
I think an admin should be an analyst more than they should be. I mean,
okay,
so tell me that I'm wrong about this. The admin role, it's compliance.
Right. Yeah, it is.
Now, if you're, solution designing, so we have a business problem and we're determining how are we going to solve for a business problem and how is that going to get carried through, and we need somebody, with expertise that has a full understanding, that has a deep understanding of the technology, then, in very large organizations, I can see the admin role where they are actually, I really can't. I can see the role where someone has to have the specialized knowledge of the technology, but what gets brought out of balance, and I've seen far too many times where now the technology ends up driving the business process because your solution design is weighted with an application expert, not a business process expert, and it's not collaborative, et cetera. But should somebody be, are there places and times in an organization where identifying ways to generate more juice for the squeeze? You thought I wasn't going to say that this episode, but I got there, right? How can we look at things? What are the experiments that we're taking?
That's where I was going to go. Is
right? That's an analyst function.
Yeah,
that's an analyst. You're analyzing, you're contributing, you're part of you're part of like there should be a business process design team. There should be a business process solution design team, right? Because remember, system design is an ongoing process. You should be launching your CRM 4 times per year, at a minimum 3 times per year, right? Instead of quick, everybody, let's change this. And I mean, we see this all the time. Someone finds a problem. They jump in, wait, we've got to fix this. They start fixing it. It creates 7 other problems.
Yeah.
Right. But also they get 60, 80% to the point of being done with that. And then the next big, the next acute thing happens. And before you know it, you're 9 months in and you haven't actually finished anything. Right. And everyone's like, what? Right. As opposed to if you took a 3 to 4 launch play where we're staging, optimizing, and again, we talked about this in the 3 zones of execution. We're staging, we're optimizing. Okay, here's the next phase. Here's the next phase, right? That's where that admin role, that's where that tech expertise as part of an ongoing effort. Is there administrative aspects that there's an underlying foundational element of ensuring and managing certain things? Yes, it could be someone who's ensuring that your integrations are working, somebody who's doing checks, looking for early warning signs, identifying where, hey, it appears that there's some friction elements here, and their job is to, bring up items. I think, again, as part of a collaborative team-based approach to optimizing that business process, I think that can be a very powerful, very strong, enablement function. I think if you were to implement this the way I'm talking about it, which by the way, to one point, the way I'm talking about it, you really have to be, most of the audience that this podcast is geared to, it'd be a very small percentage, that are large enough where having, internally dedicated resources for this is important. What's funny is, from a lot of the people that I see hailing the role of the admin, and I get why they're doing that, right? What I'm doing today, to some degree, is going to have a negative business impact for us because, if you're selling RevOps services, the admin's one of your key personas that you're trying to sell to. So, hailing the importance of the admin is good business. And me, my point, by the way, is that, and I've met a lot of admins. Very, very few of them are not sharp, intelligent, capable people. And I think that they get shit on there used to be, we used to talk about what salespeople said about marketers and what marketers said about salespeople. Well, that ain't nothing compared to what they say about the admin.
Right.
And back, and back and forth. And my point is, I think that there's that they're underutilizing their talent. Right. And the other thing that you're doing is you're also creating an unsustainable inefficiency in the organization. Because I've seen some people say that, this stuff is changing so fast and is so hard that there needs to be someone that, has the expertise. And I do agree that there's oftentimes a lack of expertise. Yeah. This goes back to the underlying system. When one person is responsible for it, guess what? Hey, that's not my job.
Yeah.
Right. Hey, you know what? If Frank hadn't said anything to me, then I guess I'm not doing anything wrong. Why'd you do it? Well, I asked Frank and Frank said that was okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's underutilizing. Now, what's funny is a lot of these very same people who have jumped on the revenue operations bandwagon, sorry for my rant, everybody, but who have jumped on the revenue operations bandwagon. And so, they're trying to find the path of least resistance to sell. And I don't mean that they're doing this maliciously. I think they're doing this with good intent. But they're the same people that also talk about the fact that if you hire somebody that needs to be managed, then you've hired the wrong person, right? So they're very much in the role of the individual that they are, they need to be accountable and responsible and on and on and on, right? So if one person has all the knowledge, who was the client that we were working with? You don't have to mention their name, but like the implementation ended up taking 2 months longer because well, the admin left 2 weeks before we started the project, and they were the only one that knew everything.
Yeah.
Here's the thing.
That's happened on multiple occasions, by the way.
Here's the thing. Ready, everybody? I'm sorry to be a downer. Your admin could get hit by a bus.
Yeah.
Right. And so the point is, when the admin is the solution, then you're reinforcing an ineffective system. And that's where technology becomes heavy. That's where bottlenecks come in. That's where you get all of these elements that we've talked about, and that on multiple episodes. An admin should be a systems manager. And by the way, if you go to the IT world, if you go to the higher level IT world, the sysadmin is a strategic role.
Yeah.
Right. It is a systems job. And therefore it's looking at the system. And so should the admin should be figuring out, how do we get compliance without anyone having to comply? Right.
Yeah.
If you can't create, if you're creating redundant properties, don't make me improve it. Figure out how to make sure that redundant properties aren't created. Maybe it's a training problem. Maybe it's there's all kinds of other things that are going on.
Well, that actually brings up one of the points I wanted to ask you about, which is it on the admin to support the users or the system or both? Because I think we think about the admin and they traditionally are supporting the system at all costs, for lack of a better.
Well, so I'm going to pick on you a little bit, and I'm picking on you because I want everyone to understand, like, this is really hard. And this is why I drive a lot of people crazy, that I get really, really anal about words. So again, I think that if they were serving the system, then the question that you're asking doesn't make any sense.
Because the users are a part of the system.
The users are a core part of the system.
Yeah. Yeah.
They do I think they end up serving the application? Yes, they do. Why? You're the Salesforce admin. What's the keyword in that title? It's Salesforce. You're the HubSpot admin. You're the RevOps admin. You're the hokey pokey admin. Sorry, you're not putting your left foot in right. You got to put it in all the way. Right? So like the question that you asked, candidly, like I have to think to understand the question, because the question is actually part of the problem.
How so?
It creates the either or. Do you serve the user or the application?
And I said or both.
or. It's still or. There's still or. It's still either or. I mean, I understand, but it's, you know what? So this gets, I'm going to get really meta here. I'm going to get really philosophical here.
Oh boy.
It serves more than that.
Okay.
Right. There's, I mean, if you go back in philosophy, there's you, there's me, there's us. Us is more than you and me.
Okay.
Us is some people will say us is God, but that gets to a very deeper level of philosophy. See, I'm not just a CRM geek, Jess.
I know.
About things, right? So, you know, they serve the system, but everybody serves the system. Like, I have a question for you, Jess. Do fish get thirsty?
I don't know.
It's a question, isn't it? I bring that up because the system is water to the fish.
Okay.
See, the reason that we get lost there, and by the way, for those of you that don't know this, I'm convinced that fish do not know that they're in water. Matter of fact, there's an old joke. You know, old fish comes along, sees two young fish, and says, "Hey guys, how's the water today?" And the young fish go, "Okay." They swim on, and one fish says to his friend, "Hey, dude, what's water?" You know, water is what's always there. It's always present. So it's invisible. You don't even realize it's there. That's what the system is. The system is more than the application. And so, by the way, there are times where the problem is people aren't using the tool correctly. There are times where the tool is not designed for the right. So like I start, you know, one of the things I look at when we see people quote unquote not complying,
Mm-hmm.
because I actually look at that. If your business process is clear, I look at that as they're not complying. You know, are they not complying with the tech protocol? Are they not complying with the business process? And by the way, in either of those two situations, why is that the case?
Because it doesn't fit into
Sometimes it's because things have changed and complying with it is no longer the most effective choice. And that means a tweak needs to be made to your underlying processes and the rules need to change. Sometimes, you know, you're not logging all your emails. You know, you want to know the best way to reduce my velocity in sales? Tell me that all my emails need to be logged.
Yep.
Right. Because here's what I want to know is what can't you do? Because I log a lot of emails, but I don't log them all.
Right.
You know, when I worked at Hertz Corporation, I got a lot. It's one of the very few jobs I've ever had where I had an expense account, meaning that I got to file expense reports and I got reimbursed. And I got in trouble all the time because I took forever to fill in my expense reports. And there was an expense report admin. I don't think that was their title, but that's what they were. And they, you know, I mean, they got on me. And then finally someone came down and said, Doug, from now on, if you don't have your expense report turned in within 60 days, you will not be reimbursed. And I said, really? Really? Let me ask you this. Do you want me to spend my time calling on my accounts? In which case, I get forgetful and I don't turn in my expense report for a while. Or, you know, I'll make damn sure that I turn in my expense reports. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a day every week to complete my expense reports. And so my day is going to be dedicated to expense reports because I don't know how long it's going to take to create those expense reports. Where do you want me to spend my time? Right. I don't have to tell you that edict got washed out pretty fast, but that's what begins to happen. Right. And we begin to focus on the technology rather than the underlying business process. And remember, what we're trying to get is the signal. We're trying to separate the signal from the noise. We're trying to make better decisions. We're trying to take better actions. What you'll find is if you've got a well-designed system, if your system is generating value, if you're communicating clearly, I don't think compliance is the primary problem. And by the way, I don't expect 100% compliance with the rule, because especially in something like sales or marketing, there is lots of variance. Right. And you know what? You know what an admin's job might be? An admin's job might be reviewing some work after it's done, because Jess did create a duplicate and we can fix that. And so the admin's job is to fix that.
Yeah.
Right. But that's not typically what happens. It either typically becomes it's the admin's job, so they become the bottleneck and everyone's waiting on the admin, or the admin becomes enforcement police.
Yeah.
So I'm not anti-admin, and I'm a fan of the people in the role. I just think for them, they could be doing things that would be so much more meaningful and valuable. And for the company, I think that it would be valuable. And I think the problem is, again, the underlying element that if you define your situation by your problem, what you're going to get is more of your problem.
Yep.
You're going to institutionalize the problem.
So and that's by them being more of that analyst that we talked about and kind of digging into what, like proactively looking into what the issues are and identifying them and letting the process drive the solve.
And if you're in an organization, you need to have job descriptions. And if you've got an admin, what are you going to do? You're going to say, well, your job is to keep the database clean, right? It's going to be a common thing that you're going to put in an admin's job.
Yeah.
Right. And you don't mean to say, except for the tweet that I read that literally said it's not sales, marketing, or success's job to keep the CRM data clean, right? But that's what you're inherently creating. Yeah. And then what you're going to do? Do you know what you're going to do? You're going to complain about alignment.
You're going to complain about what?
About alignment.
Oh, alignment. Yeah.
You're going to complain about silos.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
You know what an admin's role is? I think a big mistake that happens in business today, especially with in the marketing world and the sales world, I think we throw way too much data at way too many people. I think, we started saying that if you're going to be in marketing, you need to be quantitative. Everyone needs to, right?
Yeah.
And you know what? There's still a lot of elements about marketing that come down to being creative. And there are, one of the problems with metrics that are as easy to get as digital marketing metrics is they naturally reinforce short-term outcomes. And so you start with, whether you realize it or not, you solve it to shorter and shorter and shorter times. And I've actually become convinced, and I've seen it at work because I've tested it and I've seen it work. I don't want, and by the way, evolving mind, I used to disagree with this. I used to say, if you're writing a blog and you don't know what the metrics of your blogs were, then how can you write a good blog? I don't want my blog writers to know what the metrics were. I don't want them to know that this one got 1,000 visits and this one got 20 visits. I want them to know over a period of time. I want them to understand are they having the impact? But I also want to make sure that I space that out. They shouldn't be thinking about that all the time.
Sure.
They should be getting a good brief, and so one thing that an admin can do, I think an admin can be a great curator, right? Making sure that people are getting the right inputs at the right time, realizing, what that is. So again, it's a very, very different type thing than look at.
I think that's
on the CRM. The CRM's my job, and if it's not right, that's where you run into problems.
I think that's not talked about enough. What you just said about getting the right information and right in front of the right eyeballs at the right time, and it's actually one. I don't remember if we hit on it last week when we talked about data and metrics, but I mean that applies to data and metrics, but just in general, overall, and yeah.
The other thing too that an admin does is an admin should be creating greater context. One of the things about easily accessible, all these dashboards. I'm reviewing a portal right now. I think they have it's like 700 dashboards. I didn't say 700 reports. It's 700 dashboards. And that's because every time someone needed to know something, a dashboard got created.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And there's a lot of redundancy but it's not identical redundancy. Because this one's visualized that way. It's two different reports seeking the same basic information, but they're visualized differently.
Yeah.
Which means they're right. But even if if everybody has access to the same data in the same visualization in the same way, you're making your interpretation. I'm making my interpretation. They're making their interpretation. We're going, see, everybody has access to the same data. But you know what? And it's always there. Which means we're going to interpret it by our lens because there's no context. What's the role of the admin? The admin should be the one that's constantly creating context because it's the context that creates the alignment. It's the context that brings the North Star element. It's not the data.
Yeah, absolutely.
So see, I did carve out a powerful role for the admin.
You did. You were coming off as anti-admin, so I was trying to clarify that because I know you're not.
I'm anti-execution admin. And again, you know what
yeah.
my bet is? My bet is you follow this path, you're probably not going to have the title admin.
Probably.
You're probably going to have a title that's a little bit more fun. Like data poobah. I'm kidding. That was sarcasm, everybody.
I think
not
we should
give anybody the title data poobah.
I think we have somebody on our team that we should give the title data poobah to.
Data poobah.
All right. Well, we covered similar themes to what we've covered on past episodes, launching CRM 3 to 4 times per year. We talk about that a lot and focus on the business process. But I think the big takeaway is the admin should be an analyst and a curator. Like, I think that's, again, something to, and a context creator. Yeah, absolutely.
I just need to say this. Imagine that we're covering the same ground. Really? So that means that like it's the same basic things that lead to success. How about that? Who would have thought?
Imagine that. Imagine.
All right, Jess. Enjoy.
I want it that way. Tell me why.
Okay, so hopefully we don't get a cease and desist. But she's back next Friday, so we will have another episode.
I'm coming back for podcast recording next week. Thanks, everybody.
All right, Jess, have fun.
And that's a wrap on this episode of the RevOps Show. I'm just going to reiterate what Jess said because it truly is the most important takeaway from this entire episode, and that is that the admin should be an analyst, curator, and a context creator. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to go subscribe on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, leave us a review, and share the episode. If you have any questions you would like to ask Doug or Jess about the admin or anything else RevOps related, email me at hannah@imaginellc.com or hit us up on Twitter @demandcreator. Until next time, remember, you can't solve your upstream problems downstream.